Colter, we know that in Montana there's a lot of hunters, a lot of gun enthusiasts, so you might as well shop local when you're looking for your next firearm or accessory, huh?
Selway Armory, they got the best prices around and the best service you'll find anywhere. As the guys over there will tell you, shop with Selway Armory for a year. We guarantee you'll save some money.
The other thing is they have great knowledge. There's a lot of questions that people have about the right styles and types to suit them and what it is that they're trying to do, and all the guys over at Selway Armory know their firearms and ammunition and accessories inside and out.
With locations in both Missoula and Bozeman, Selway Armory has some specialty products as well, including full Sig Sauer inventory for your best in handguns and much, much more.
Like Colter said, 2 brick-and-mortar locations, one in Missoula, one in Bozeman, and also online, tremendous inventory there. They'll ship everything you want, selwayarmory.com.
You guys all ready?
Ready.
Okay. One thing that we've been doing the last couple of days is, just kind of recognizing the guy, not necessarily a player of the day in a specific, selected one guy, but we're just going to kind of steer it. So it could be for production over a couple of days. It could be for a specific performance that individual day. We had Lance McCutcheon we kind of go offense, defense, special teams, and then recycle. So Lance McCutcheon on offense day 1, Bryce Sturck on defense day 2. Today, recognizing Ty Okada, a guy that's just consistently stood out for us on our special teams drills. And so not just today, but throughout fall camp, and a guy that we're going to count on for a lot of good production in that area as well. So I'm excited to see him continue to progress and gain more opportunities on not just in the kicking game, but also on the defense. So with that being said, first day of shells today, and our practice format was considerably different. Really a bigger emphasis on fundamentals and special teams when we're on the grass, and a lot more 11-on-11 and situational work today. I actually thought the offense kind of had the upper hand, hit some shot plays down the field. Tucker had a very good day, very efficient in the pass game, taking advantage of what the defense was giving us, and I think it was good. I thought Chad Cano moved around and smacked some people pretty good, and maybe sometimes when he shouldn't even, and I think we continue to improve. I thought this was a very crisp first 11-on-11 type session, very workmanlike. We were staying right on our install track, which usually that's a good sign. I know usually a lot of times you'll get to day 3 and you're like, oh, let's maybe back off. Didn't feel like we needed to do that. We stayed right on track there. Our situation was 3rd down today, so we got into an opportunity to work that. And then tomorrow we'll start to work a little green zone, red zone stuff. Be back on the grass, more of a fundamental day, and then roll it back out to the turf here the following day. So that being said, take any questions.
On the note of Ty Okada, a lot of times guys in that group are highly recruited and distinct personalities. Have a guy that's kind of a walk-on guy that's made his way like he has and shows the toughness he has. What does that add to the group?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I think he just pushes everybody. When you look at a kid that, like you said, came here and is paying his own way and is just outworking guys. And we have a lot of guys like that in our program. A lot of our Montana kids, there were low scholarship guys initially, like Josh Hill, and they just work and work and work and separate themselves with their persistence and their work ethic, and Ty's very much like that. And I think that it's pretty awesome. I mean, I think about a lot of the leaders on our team right now. I mentioned Kevin Cassis being a partial scholarship guy. Mitch Brock was a low partial scholarship guy. And you just kind of look at it. Even I think about when I first got here, Chad Newell was a walk-on, Mac Bignell was a walk-on. I mean, there's a lot of players that have really done well because they're separating themselves with their work ethic. And that's one of the things that's difficult to measure in the recruiting process, is just what their desire level is to be great.
The 2 years that Kane spent at Washington, you kind of described that last year. I think it's him kind of going to finishing school a little bit. So what differences have you seen now that fall camp is underway?
Well, he was in a different role for me the first time around, and his job was to support Ty and coach the linebackers, and I thought he did a really good job of that. And now but I see a lot more command from him. That's what I was actually talking to. It's kind of funny because Rob Higgs and I, we spend probably more time together than we want to, but Rob's been here a long time, and he's got perspective, and you can't be around the game that much and not pick things up. And I was mentioning to him last night as we were watching our walkthrough, I'm just like, Kane's just got so much more command of what's going on. And I think he's got really good support around him. Byron's, now into his 4th year as a full-time position coach and has a really good grasp of what we need to do up front. Kyle Reisinger's a guy that was here when Kane was here, and so they have some continuity and some consistency. And obviously he's known Bobby forever. And so I think that really helps him. He's got good support around him, and he's got that core knowledge that he gained when he went to Washington. So he's a lot more poised and a lot more in command.
First camp for both coordinators, but there are guys that everybody in the program is familiar with. So what do you think? That's sort of a unique dynamic.
I think this has been the best so far. We're 3 days into it or whatever, but, it's just very seamless. I think Matt having the opportunity to call 6 games last year, or 7 games, whatever it was, and then have an off season to kind of formulate what he wants to do. He's right on cue. I'm not having to prompt him. He's going to the next call. I've been very impressed with that, and the same thing with Kane on the defensive side. They're clicking a little bit pretty well there too. And the other thing that's kind of interesting, it's not just that we have new position coaches. We had a couple of guys that were interns for us for a couple of years, and Patrick Carroll and Joe Dunning, and those guys really have an important role, especially in terms of how the practice flows. And so now we've got some new guys in those roles, and that sometimes is actually just as valuable in terms of how practice rolls, because they're the guys that are signaling and they're kind of keeping the tempo going sometimes. And so if there's a change, that might be the biggest one, but I think that's coming along nicely.
When you put the pads on, just kind of how does that change the dynamic?
Yeah, you're going to have more physicality, and you kind of almost have to reel them in when they're in shells. And it's just such a different day and age in terms of how you got to deal with contact. I think our guys are smart about it. We'll turn them loose a little bit here and there, but like today, for example, Josh Hill, Troy, Tyrell Thomas, some of these guys were just like, hey, don't have contact today. Just don't worry about it. I don't mean, Troy took a lot of shots last fall, and obviously Josh is a guy who's had a history of injury, and I think we learned our lesson last year. We kind of tried to rush a little bit, I think, with Grant, and through his toughness, he finished the season, but he redid his shoulder in fall camp, and so I had to have that done again after the season was over, believe it or not. And so we just want to make sure that we're really smart with those guys and get them to Saturday.
Watching Matt coach, especially when you talk about individual and 7-on-7, he's so no nonsense. He's such like a diligent guy. How would you describe his coaching style? What do you like about just kind of his no nonsense approach?
Yeah, I think he's very poised. Yeah, that's probably what I would say is, Matt's not a guy that's going to get rattled. Like I kind of got into him about some stuff early in practice, and it was by design. I'm not going to yell at the kids to make a point. Sometimes I'm going to get after the coaches, because then they know I'm serious. And he's just like, yeah, okay. He doesn't really flinch on stuff. He just kind of goes about his business. I think it just speaks to the preparation that he has and the confidence that he has in his abilities.
Do you see a parallel between how he was as a player, just in terms of that?
Yeah, very much. That guy was detailed, smart. Did the extra work to be prepared. There was no MAs on that guy's part. I don't know that he probably ever jumped off sides or, busted a route. That wasn't who he was. I think his quarterbacks would probably say it, security blanket type guy, because you knew he was going to be in the right spot on every down. And that's why he was the all-time leading receiver at Boise State when he graduated, even though he missed his senior year with an injury. So, you compartmentalize that. You think about how productive that guy was over a 3-year span in a prolific offense. That's pretty impressive.
Tyrell Thomas came back a little earlier than you had anticipated. Is that right?
I saw his grades.
Okay, yeah. So how did he look in the first day out?
I looked a little rusty.
Did he?
But it was good to have him back out there.
Yeah.
What does he add to the defense?
Depth, obviously. These guys started a lot of games for us. He had a hamstring that really nagged most of the second half of the season last year. Actually didn't even play against North Dakota State or Incarnate Word. His last game of the year was against Montana, I believe. And so, I think he brings a lot of experience. He's played a lot of football for us over a 2-year period of time. And, obviously we're going to need a lot of bodies back there, depending on the style of offense that we're going to play. And I think he's a guy to play corner, he can play nickel. And that's a valuable asset for us.
Do you feel like, what do you think of just the corner battle right now, with Gibson's kind of having an elevated role, but also some of those young guys, some of the freshmen seem like they're battling too?
Yeah, I think we've got some good talent in there. Tyler Bohannon, we sat him out. He's had a little meniscus problem. The knee flared up today, so we're trying to get him back, calm down. But he's a long, physical kid. The Gibson brothers, I think if you say you got that guy, cover him, they're good. They've got to master some of the scheme stuff when we play zone, but they are physical, and they don't back down from anybody. And I've been impressed with like Eric Zambrano as another long, athletic guy for us, as a young guy. And so I really feel positive about where we're at. I look out there and you're going, hey, we're rolling the twos, and like JoJo Henderson, I'm like, that guy's played a ton of football for us, and he's a pretty good player. And that's a good luxury to have, and those guys will all have a role. Damian Washington is a guy that just a steady Eddie, and he's rolling with the ones because he's so accountable. He's not necessarily going to be a great press corner, not going to be a great man-to-man guy, but he's a really good zone corner because he understands his limitations and he gets himself in position.
What have you seen out of Coach Potter?
He's just a really smart guy. I sat in on parts of his meetings today, and it's funny because as an old teacher, I recognize things. Like, hey, he's going through his anticipatory set. He's telling the guys what they're going to learn. And then he's sequentially teaching them what he just told them he was going to learn. And then he's going to tell them what they learned. That's, a lot of young coaches don't do that. Okay, and so you've got to pay attention to how you structure your meeting and make sure that you're not, the objective here is not to confuse these guys. We want to give them the answers to the test. But if you use a bunch of, like I always say this, the thing I learned as a young coach, I'd get up there and I'd try to sound really smart, and I use a bunch of $5 words, and I say it in like 20 sentences, right? If I can say it in one word versus 5 words, that's way better. And so simplicity is the ultimate, right? In terms of your ability to compartmentalize things. And I think he's got an ability to do that that's very natural. And he's got a very calm demeanor too. He's very much like Matt.
Look at that position, losing the 3 guys from last year, basically kind of Ryan Davis had a nice catch down the field on the scene, but how do you incorporate that group this year?
Well, and I think, Jacob's a guy that I think has some really good ball skills and can be a matchup problem for people. You've got a guy like Derek Snell who's really physical. You throw RJ in there as kind of a fullback role. And then Ryan Lonergan's flashed a bunch early in camp. And so we've got a couple other guys in Logan Gilliard and Ethan Bullock that are really good young bodies. And it's going to be fun to see how that thing comes together.
You said when Lonergan signed, you thought he was the best Montana guy.
I thought he was the best prospect.
Yeah, right.
And I sometimes I think people misinterpret what you say, like those guys that are going to be more prolific as players.
Sure.
But when you look at their body of work and you go, okay, this guy, to me, he's a Mountain West guy.
Right.
Like I think guys missed on him because of his skill set and his size potential. And that's what you're looking at, is who can this guy be in a couple of years? And I think he had the highest ceiling out of the Montana guys last year. And he's showing, he had put some guys on his back. They're back at 9-on-7 today, made a couple nice catches. He just looks more, he doesn't look like a freshman running around out there. He looks more like a sophomore type of kid. And so kind of what I thought we'd get out of him.
Do you think this group can have the same blocking impact as maybe like a Curtis Amos?
Yeah, Curtis Amos really was a phenomenal asset to us in that regard, and I think that where I think it's really going to show up is probably short yardage and goal line. But I feel really good that we can get creative with some of our defensive line personnel and have maybe those guys help us out there a little bit, and even maybe playing with 6 linemen at times. Because we do have some guys I think that have value in some of those situations, and so some of our talent overall is to maybe do some two-way stuff with a guy like Derek Marks or Andre Williams or someone else, Bryce Sturck, or take advantage of, hey, Sessions isn't the starting 5 this week, we can put him as an extra tight end. That's a 300-pounder coming down on somebody. I think that helps us.
Kane was one of the great safeties in Big Sky history, but he hasn't ever coached safety really. He's been coaching linebackers for much of his career. Now you have 2 of the best safeties in the league. What do you think of just that marriage between?
Yeah, I think it's really good, and I think he spent quite a bit of time with Jimmy Lake when he was at Washington, and I think it's kind of like today. It's like Byron's like, hey, can you help me with some pass rush period 1? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I can, but could you have told me a little bit earlier? But then you just remember, it's like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do, and you try to be detailed in terms of what you're talking about, and having that core knowledge as a guy that played the position, and regardless of whether he's coached or not, you're not going to forget those things. And I think that just the instinctual part of the game, and it could be really a beneficial thing for those guys getting that information from Kane.
On that note, when you were doing the pass rush stuff, it's so interesting watching Troy because he has so many physical skills. He doesn't quite have the tools of the trade. So
yeah.
What's the upside for him?
Well, did you notice how quickly he started to master it?
Right.
And that's the thing that's just so unique, because most guys are reps guys. They're going to need 8, 10, 12 reps of something before they can start to even really look fluid doing it. He's like 1, 2, 3 reps and he's got it. And that's just, it's just a very unique characteristic. And that's why he can play multiple positions, because he doesn't need all those reps at one thing. He can just go, yeah, I got it, coach, don't worry about it. But yeah, I think it's not necessarily a supernatural thing for him. What he's going to do is run around guys. But as he starts to develop some tools as a pass rusher, between him and Andre and Bryce and Derek Marks, and you throw, Daniel Hardy off the edge, and I think we've got some options on the edge.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.